Before we move further into this story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear. Let's dive in. The church bells had barely stopped echoing when Daniel noticed her stumble. The bride, radiant in white satin and lace, faltered on the polished marble aisle. Her bouquet slipped from her hands, scattering roses across the floor. She tried to steady herself, but her gown clung heavy and tight, the long veil tangling around her heels. Instinct took over. Daniel stepped forward from the side pews, catching her arm before she fell face first in front of hundreds of eyes. He gently lifted the hem of her dress, freeing her foot, his touch steady but respectful. And then it started. A wave of whispers hissed through the hall. What is he doing? Touching the bride? In the middle of her wedding? A man in a tailored suit scoffed loudly. Shameless. Has he no respect? The bride, cheeks burning with embarrassment, tried to protest. No, he was only, but her voice was drowned out. The crowd's murmurs swelled like a storm, each voice sharper, crueler. Her father, standing near the altar, bristled with anger. Step away from her, he barked, his tone sharp enough to cut glass. Daniel said nothing. He only steadied the bride until her footing was secure, then slowly released her hand. He stood tall, his shoulders squared, his face calm even as the weight of judgment pressed from every direction. But the damage was done. Dozens of accusing eyes stared him down, painting him as the villain. The bride's lips trembled. She looked at him, half gratitude, half sorrow, knowing he had saved her from humiliation, yet unable to stop the ridicule that rained on him. And Daniel, silent as stone, absorbed every word without flinching. Because he knew something they didn't. The whispering didn't stop. If anything, it grew louder, feeding on itself. Who does he think he is? Hissed one guest. Trying to make himself the hero, sneered another. Pathetic. The bride's father advanced a step down the aisle, his glare sharp as a blade. I said step away, he repeated, louder this time. Daniel finally released her arm, his expression unreadable. He could feel the room closing in on him, the judgment thick in the air. A lesser man might have lowered his gaze, mumbled an apology, and disappeared into the sea of faces. But Daniel stayed where he was, his back straight, his presence calm, like an immovable pillar amid the storm. The bride, still trembling, managed to speak. He was only trying to help. Her voice was small, almost swallowed by the vastness of the church. No one listened. Mocking laughter broke out from the side pews. A younger man leaned to his friend, sneering, maybe he wanted his 15 minutes of fame. Wrong place, buddy. Daniel's jaw tightened. He had faced war zones, firefights, and nights where survival depended on absolute calm. And here, inside a golden church filled with silk dresses and polished shoes, he felt the same piercing heat of scrutiny, except now it was personal. Slowly, he reached into the inside pocket of his jacket. Every head followed the motion. The bride's father froze, uncertain. Daniel drew out a small black case, no bigger than a wallet. He clicked it open with deliberate calm. Inside, gleaming under the light of the chandeliers, was a golden trident. The insignia of a U.S. Navy SEAL. The whispers stopped. Dead silence filled the hall. The silence was absolute. It was as though the very air had thickened, every guest holding their breath. The trident gleamed in the light, an unspoken weight settling over the room. Those who had laughed, mocked, and whispered now stared as if seeing Daniel for the first time. The bride's father, red-faced, took a hesitant step back. His glare faltered. His lips parted, but no words came. Daniel's voice broke the silence. Steady. Low. Certain. "I don't need recognition," he said, eyes sweeping across the stunned faces. "But when I see someone about to fall, I catch them. Whether it's in a wedding hall or halfway around the world." Every word struck with the sharpness of truth. The bride's chest rose with a shuddering breath. She whispered, barely audible, "Thank you." For the first time, she stood taller, steadied not just by his hand but by the courage he carried with him. Daniel closed the case gently and slipped it back into his jacket. He gave her the faintest nod, then turned toward the doors. His shoes echoed against the marble as he walked, each step cutting through the heavy silence. No one stopped him. No one dared. And as he pushed open the church doors, sunlight spilled across his shoulders, framing him like a figure out of a film. Inside, the guests remained frozen, their whispers now gone, replaced by something heavier, respect. Because sometimes, it takes a single moment to reveal the truth. Sometimes, the man mocked as ordinary turns out to be extraordinary. And in that moment, every person in that hall would remember him. Not for what he said, not for what he showed, but for who he truly was.